In the textbook, Understanding Video Games, the Essential Introduction, they quote Shigeru Miyamoto, the founder of Nintendo. Miyamoto said, "Video games are bad for you? That's what they said about rock and roll. Ever since video games were introduced to the world, people assumed that they would have a negative effect on our minds. In reality, with correct parental supervision, video games can be beneficial to kids and teenagers. Video games introduce critical thinking techniques, help develop both social skills and the ability to work with others. They are a great stress reliever, and they can influence children to go out and play sports. Let's start by talking about how video games can help children with school. According to the Huffington Post, research has shown that children who play video games are introduced to critical thinking and are better at figuring out how to find solutions to problems. When you play a video game, you are forced to go through levels and get from point A to point B utilizing items and skills from your environment. You also need to make decisions regarding tools and advantages that you may have unlocked in other levels. These decision-making skills can help children later in life when they are trying to make the decision that could have pros and cons. They will be able to weigh the choices and make decisions by scanning through all their mental choices much quicker than those who are not used to using these kind of mental skills. Some people might believe that children who play video games are locked up in their rooms all day and do not socialize with anyone other than their parents. Actually, according to the Huffington Post, they have also discovered that playing video games is a great way for children and teenagers to develop social skills. Playing video games is no longer the solitary act that it once was. When you play video games online, you can chat with other people who are also playing the game and even play as a team or against one another. If you want to, you can play against strangers, which forces you to learn how to communicate with others you do not know and to learn how to socialize with people. There are also video games where you work together with friends or strangers where they work together to complete a common goal. An example of this would be Call of Duty Zombies. This is a game that teamwork can be the difference in failing in the first level or beating the game. I have learned from personal experience that one person cannot do everything while everyone else is running around. I can definitely slow down the group because I had never played the game mode and had no idea what the game plan was. By talking with my teammates and all of us using our communication skills, they were able to teach me what was going on so that we could beat the game. If it were not for communication, I would still be holding the team back and would not have been able to move on to the next level and eventually beat the entire game. This can help your child develop their ability to work with others, which is a useful skill in school and eventually in the workforce. There are many people who struggle with talking to people they don't know. Playing video games with strangers and learning to work together in collaborative groups or as a team can lead to children developing the kind of skills needed for jobs that require the same type of skills. If you are not uncomfortable meeting and speaking to new people, then this could put you ahead of others who are looking for jobs. The Huffington Post made a point that I absolutely agree with. That is that video games are a great stress reliever. In my opinion, nothing in the world is more fun than coming home from work, taking a shower, and then going online with your friends to play games with each other. You have used your brain all day, and it is nice to be able to get away from the real world and use your brain in a different way. You can do this by using video games to have fun with your pals, working together, and solving puzzles or complete levels. Some people might believe that video games are unhealthy and can cause kids to gain weight. According to Inverse.com, some video games such as Madden and NBA 2K influence children and teens to go out and play sports. Madden is a video game that allows you to control players from the NFL teams in a simulated football game. You can create your own player that you can name and place into the league and make him the greatest of all time. I personally cannot play this game for more than an hour without wanting to go outside and throw the football around with my brother. NBA 2K has the same features as Madden, but with NBA teams. Once again, I can only play it with so long without wanting to go outside to shoot hoops. There are always going to be the games that show violence, but there are just as many games that have healthy messages behind it that influences kids to step out of their comfort zone and try something new. If you still believe that video games are bad for you and your children after listening to this research that I presented in this speech, then I do not know what will change your mind. Violent video games have been blamed for the reasoning behind children and teens committing crimes. In 2008, there was a group of 6 teenagers who were between the ages of 14 and 18 that committed a chain of horrible crimes. This group of friends did crimes that they supposedly learned from watching them and playing the game Grand Theft Auto 4. These crimes included break-ins, attempted carjacking, robberies, and brutal beating. To try to make themselves appear like victims, they blamed something that had been used 100 times: video games. They tried to make it seem like they had committed these horrible crimes because they saw the main character of the video game, Nico Bellic, do all of the same horrific things and get away with it. They decided that these actions were perfectly acceptable to try in real life, otherwise it would not be in a video game. If these kids truly believed that what they saw was acceptable, just because they saw it on a video game, then their parents are the ones to blame. First of all, many of the kids in this group were not old enough to be playing this game, as it is rated M for mature, meaning you are supposed to be 17 or older to play. If this group was allowed to play the game that was out of their rating level, their parents should have had a discussion with them about what they were seeing, what is happening within the game, as well as telling them that it portrays behaviors that are not acceptable in the real world compared to the video game world. These kids obviously were not acting with any level of common sense, and their parents were not supervising them in any way. This has nothing to do with video games or its effect on its players. I have reason to believe that this has more to do with the parents. I think the parents should have looked at their parenting techniques rather than trying to blame video games. I personally think that we could completely erase child crime if we have parents who teach their kids the difference between right and wrong. It is the job of the parents to read the labels, check the ratings, and talk to their children about how the video games do not relate to the real world. Parents should check with their kids, monitor what they are doing at school, in their rooms, and with their video games. Only then can we drop the number of crimes committed by children. In a world that always focuses on negative aspects of life, why don't we focus on the positive side of things? With correct parental supervision, video games can be beneficial to kids and teenagers. Video games introduce critical thinking techniques, help develop both social skills and the ability to work with others. They are a great stress reliever and can even influence children to go out and play sports. Ever since video games were introduced to the world, people assumed that they would have a negative effect on our minds. As Nolan Bushnell, who established Atari Inc., said, "Video games foster the mindset that allows creativity to grow." Inverse.com dives deep down into the study of the brain and how video games stimulate parts of the brain that are not used on a regular basis. These parts of the brain are known to be linked with creativity and critical thinking. This is why, with correct parental supervision, video games can be beneficial to kids and teenagers. Thank you.